So I'm a clinical psychologist, and currently I work on a sessional basis in adult mental health, providing a range of assessment and intervention services to adults, which also includes acting as an expert to the Scottish legal system in predominantly personal injury and historical abuse cases. So initially, it was in terms of predominantly assigning activities to people that I'm working with that were linked with the formulation and the intervention plan as agreed. That still forms a part of what I do, but as my confidence has grown with the software and the interface, increasingly I'm still using it for that, but also increasingly using it for two other things. One is designing my own activities using text, images, links to freely available hyperlinks, videos, and so on, and audio files. And also, I've fairly recently started to use the pathways function where, for example, people agree that there might be things that they want to regularly practice between consultations. So I've noticed that some of the people, particularly people who are perhaps severely disconnected and depressed and disengaged from not only from their own lives but from their family, have become engaged through the chat in ways that they weren't becoming engaged through either in-person consultations or even on video. I have, for certain people, encouraged them to use the chat function, not for an emergency of the sort that should be directed to the emergency services, but where there's what might be an emerging crisis. There have been a couple of people whereby through some focused chat, it's enabled them to pause, consider what's going on, and get back to a point. Whereas if that wasn't there, I can imagine scenarios whereby by the time their next scheduled appointment, they might not think of bringing it forward, and things are much worse. So one of the things which has been hugely helpful, not only because of what I just said, but also in terms of clinical risk, is one of the interventions which is increasingly recognised for people at individual risk, let's say, of suicide, is safety planning. So often working with people on an individualised safety plan, if that comes out from the assessment. So I've developed an activity within Quenza that takes all of the elements of a safety plan and that allows them to work through that. So, anticipating previous crises, telephone numbers of named individuals, and because of the generate PDF function, it really helps in terms of them being able to share that with other members of the care team who are involved. I think the benefits are around embracing the evidence and experience around the added gains that you can have, both in terms of the outcomes that supporting people to achieve, but also it does significantly reduce time. There are some of my colleagues who I still think are stuck in the 1980s, and who won't allow clients to send them an email, who get worried about these sorts of things, and they'd be filled with horror if you'd said that somebody can send you a chat message at any point. But I suppose my view would be, for people where I agree to do that, there's already been a conversation about the terms and conditions of service. They know not to use that for a crisis. They know I don't work 24 hours a day. And so I think with the boundaries in place, that certainly transforms certain things. I mean, some people particularly people who are struggling with depressed mood and haven't been out of bed for a week. There's one young person who has said that using the chat function while under the bed covers And my responses enabled them to think about, even just for 15 minutes, seeing what would happen if they enacted what I put in the chat. So that sort of taking things to an exciting new level around technology.